So we've got another Digimon video today, but this one's not about one of the specific Digidestins. It's not about like how they became Digidestin. This one is going to be about, it's going to be kind of a series of the different kind of evil-ish or evil Digimon that they fight throughout the first season. So this video specifically is going to be about the evil Digimon that they deal with on File Island where they first land. So that'll be Kawagamon, Bakumon, Devimon, technically Ogremon, but he becomes a friend, so he'll technically be more listed under the friend videos when I get into those, or when I just do like a friend video for the Digimon. And then I'll do like a separate one about like Edamon and Datamon and like, Edamon and his dark network. And then I'll have one about like, at least one about Myotismon, maybe two, because, we got Myotismon, the original, and we got Venom Myotismon, and then we got Malum Myotismon, who pops up in Season 2, and he is actually a rather integral thing in Season 2, as we find out at the end. So I might, Myotismon might get at least two videos, one for what he does in Adventures, the original series, and then one for what he does in Adventure 2.0. So probably two there for Myotismon, and then one about the Dark Masters. So that'll be what we have for those ones. Diaboromon will also get its own video, and then, I'll do like one about the different, like once I get into Season 2, after I do the character discussions for those different Digidestins from Season 2, then I will do a video about the different Control Spire Digimon that are made from the Control Spires, and Blackboard Greymon will be getting his own video, but he kind of falls somewhere between the villain, because he is kind of an antagonist at the beginning when they first start dealing with him, and then in the end he does prove himself to be an ally. He proves himself to be a friend, which if you've seen Digimon 2.0, then you know that, and if you haven't, then go watch it. But I'll be doing that as well, along with like the Davis and Ken and Cody and Yoli, and then the other miscellaneous Digidestin that go along with that series. So this one is going to be about the different evil Digimon from File Island, and the first evil Digimon that the Digidestin encounter is actually Kawagamon, who is, this big red bug type Pokemon that looks somewhere between like a beetle thing because of the pincers, and it can fly, and it has anger management issues because it keeps just trying to attack them. I'm pretty sure Kawagamon is a champion level Digimon. In later seasons, in Season 2, we do see a Digidestin that I think does have a Kawagamon as their Digimon, but that's perfectly fine. Yeah, we do. It's one of the Russian Digimon, I think, that has a Kawagamon. In this case, we're just going to focus on this specific Kawagamon. It attacks the Digidestin when they first arrive in the digital world. Tai and Izzy are the two that kind of first interact with it, and then Koromon and Multimon help them hide in a hiding tree, which is just this kind of digital tree that you can jump in and hide in until after, danger has passed you by. Which, I'm like, okay, I love that idea. Can we please have that for hide and seek? It's a hiding tree. Yes, that sounds wonderful. And then, that all the Digidestin, that they meet up and they each see their own Digimon, and they see the other's Digimon. And then Kawagamon shows up again, and this all just happens in the first episode, and then Kawagamon shows up again, and he starts, trying to attack them. Digimon don't necessarily have, like, genders one way or the other. This wasn't really gone over in the original series, but it is mentioned in Digimon Tri by Renamon, that Digimon don't necessarily have gender most of the time. But some Digimon, based on, like, their voices, we can kind of maybe lean more towards male, lean more towards female, but I think they do. I think Tai refers to Kawagamon as male, but this video will be going up during Pride Month, so if one way or the other, whatever, that's entirely up to you. But Kawagamon is kind of identified to. Yeah, I'll leave that alone. They're Digimon. They don't necessarily have gender, although we do have like Anjumon and Anjuamon and Devimon and Lady Devimon and okay, and there are some of the Digimon that very much appear to be female, like as I said, like Anjuamon or Lady Devimon or Lilymon or Rosemon. you know, that look very much female. So those ones might be a little bit more in that one, but maybe it's more like the animal type Digimon that don't really have a gender. And this went from a discussion about a giant bug to Digimon gender. So moving back to the giant bug, Kawagamon keeps trying to attack them. And this is when, you know, all of the entraining forms of the Digimon, the little, not the baby forms, but the entraining forms, you know, like, you know, Horomon, Multimon, Yokomon, Sunamon, all of them try to attack. And they all just kind of have very innocent little attacks that don't really do too much against Kawagamon. And Kawagamon just, you know, they bounce off Kawagamon and don't do anything. And then Kawagamon, you know, tries to attack again, but of course the Digimon want to protect their Digidestin, and this is the first time that we see them Digivolve. And they all Digivolve into their rookie forms. And then they're able to let loose more powerful attacks that actually do seem to cause damage to Kawagamon. And, you know, we see Kawagamon kind of writhe in pain. And then, you know, the Digidestin celebrate because Kawagamon kind of got knocked down, and then the Digidestin celebrate, and they're all happy. And then Kawagamon kind of gets up, and then he jabs his giant pincers into the ledge that they're on, and then it makes the ledge fall. And then they get swept away by the river. We don't, I think we see Kawagamon again later on in the series. He's not like a major thing that happens again. He does pop up again, and I do believe that he pops up in Digimon Tri, because in the first episode of Digimon Tri, Tai gets chased around the city by a Kawagamon, and Tai's trying to lead the Kawagamon away into a less crowded area where there's fewer people and fewer buildings, so it's not going to cause as much damage. And this Kawagamon keeps trying to attack him, and he assumes that because it's specifically targeting Tai, it has to be the same Kawagamon from before. And so we kind of assume the same thing. They're able to, with the, you know, Kazagumon and the rest of the Digimon show up in Digimon Tri at the beginning. They are able to, Tai and Agumon working together, are able to defeat Kawagamon. I don't remember if they just send him back to the Digiworld or if they do just straight up destroy him. I don't remember. But so we have that. The next Digimon that they deal with actually is technically Devimon, because Devimon lures them into his mansion that he has on File Island on Infinity Mountain. File Island is very odd. It has like a desert area, it has a jungle area, it has like a sewer system where like all the Numamon live, it has like an ice area where like Frigimon lives. And then it has like coastal area all the way around the place, and then it has like this giant mountain in the middle of it that's just called Infinity Mountain. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. But what ends up happening is, you know, Devimon lures the kids to the mansion, and then he makes it, you know, gives them all this food and a nice place to sleep and everything. And, you know, and then that night, it's revealed that no, all that food wasn't real, so you didn't actually eat anything. It was all fake. It was all in your head. And then he scatters them. They then lower their defenses, and then he scatters them all over File Island, but like breaking up File Island. And this causes, Tai and Agumon go one place, Joe and Gomamon go another place, Matt goes someplace, Izzy goes someplace, Sora, Mimi, TK, and they all end up in the different areas. And this is when we have, like, they each have to kind of deal with something on their own or in groups. And Devimon is also the one that has been in control of the different Black Gear type Digimon that we've seen. At the beginning of the series, we see several Digimon that have like these black gears in the back of them or in them. Like Meramon had one, Unimon had one that Joe had to deal with. Andromon had one in him. There's a few others that they end up having to deal with that have black gears inside of them. And Devimon uses the Black Gear Digimon to try to attack Tai and his group. And he has them all separated. And he's like, well, then we'll just send these Digimon with black gears in them to pick them off kind of one by one. Or trap them in certain areas. Because the black gears are designed to turn a good Digimon evil. Simple concept there. It basically kind of switches their morality, and it makes them obey Devimon. One of the Digimon on the island that don't really need a black gear in order for it to obey Devimon is Ogremon. Ogremon is kind of Devimon's little, well, I wouldn't say henchman type thing. He is still kind of scared of Devimon. Devimon is a champion level Digimon, but he still seems extremely strong for a champion. And as far as I'm aware, both Ogremon and Leomon are champion type Digimon. And one of the things that one of the things that actually happens to Leomon is Devimon uses his, I think it's Touch of Darkness is his attack that he uses on Leomon in order to make Leomon obey him. And then he has Leomon then fight Tai. And Tai and Agumon are able to kind of, via Tai's Digivice activating, it's able to dispel the darkness that was controlling Leomon, and that frees him. We know later on this power, this being exposed to the light from the Digivice, is what helps Leomon be able to digivolve into Saber Leomon. But again, that'll be gone over a little bit later in the Edamon video, but also in like the own video that like Leomon will get. That Leomon and Ogremon will get their own video because they're kind of a pair. If you play Pokemon, think of them as kind of like a Zangoose and Seviper. They always fight each other, but they can work together rather well. So they're kind of like just like the two natural enemies that they have in the digital world. And those two will get their own video at some point from me. But what ends up happening is, Devimon scatters all the Digidestined, and Sora and Joe end up in the area where the Bakumon village is. Now, Bakumon are these ghost Digimon. And they have the power to kind of manipulate their appearance. So when Sora and Joe get to the area, they end up encountering what look like all these different people, and they're saying, "Oh, we're going to have this huge celebration for Lord Bakumon, who's kind of our deity or whatever." And they're like, "Okay, well that sounds interesting. Maybe you can help us, or maybe we can be part of this." And they're like, "Oh, that sounds like a wonderful thing." And then they capture Joe and Sora, and they're going to use them as sacrifices, which is just like, okay. And they have like Sora and Joe tied up on the table, and Gomamon and Palmon actually trick one of the stupid Bakumon into giving them food. They're in this cage, and what ends up happening is they're telling this other Bakumon, like, well, if you're going to be a guard, aren't you supposed to taunt you? And they see that he has this lunch, and they're like, yeah, you're supposed to taunt us with you have food and we want food, so you're supposed to take the food, and you're supposed to wave it in front of us and taunt us about the fact that we can't have it. And he's like, oh, okay, I can do that. And Bakumon do not seem to be the smartest Digimon out there. And what happens is the Bakumon, he's a little ways away from the cage, and he's like, food you can't have. And then Gomamon's like, no. You have to get closer to us. You have to let us smell the food or think that we have a chance of getting it. Okay, and he gets closer, and I was like, no, you're not close enough. You got to come a little bit closer. And they basically get him to the point where he's almost right in front of the cage. And then Palmon uses her vines to grab him and then drag him forward, and then they take the food and then they eat the food after they knock him out, after they knock the Bakumon out, which is just funny to watch. I was just like, okay, Bakumon number 97 is no longer allowed to be the one in charge of the jail cell. We're going to give this to a different Bakumon from this point forward. And what ends up happening is, Palmon and Gomamon are able to escape, and then this is when Joe and Sora also have to deal with the Bakumon, and this is when they do the mind over matter type of thing, where they come up with the chant of Bakumon lose your power, Bakumon lose your power. And it's one of the times where Joe and Sora have to work together. And I do like it when they put the Digidestin into also around the same time as when Mimi and Izzy have to work together in the maze, and where they have to deal with Centaurimon. I like it when they make it that the Digidestin have to work together, and sometimes when you put them in an odd combination. If you have to, I don't remember if they ever did this. Well, they kind of did, but we're they Tai and when they have Tai or Mimi have to work together, are kind of an odd combination. Simply just because of they're kind of polar opposites to a degree. Mimi is very pacifistic, as I've mentioned in her video and in other videos, and Tai is very much, go get them, get the, fight the evil Digimon, get all that taken care of. They're very different in those ways, but they do still get along very well. And what ends up happening is, Joe and Sora working together along with Beomon and Gomamon, or sorry, it's not Palmon, it's Beomon. Why did I keep saying Palmon? I don't know. I apologize. But Beomon, there we go again, Beomon and Beomon and Gomamon are able to escape from the Bakumon. That's not a very good jail cell guard. And they are able to then go and help Joe and Sora, and the four of them work together via Digivolving, and they're able to defeat the Bakumon. And then Joe and Sora go off and they make their way to go and be reunited with the rest of the group. And then this is, of course, where we get back to Devimon. Devimon is, of course, his goal is that he wants to, because there's like a prophecy or something that states that the youngest Digidestined, aka TK in this case, is the one that will actually hold the power to be able to destroy him. Now, at this point in time, TK's Digimon Patamon has not been able to Digivolve up to this point. Almost Digivolved in regards to trying to deal with Electmon at Primary Village, but Electmon will, again, be one of the Digimon that gets a different video. Just because Electmon is kind of fun. But what ends up happening is Devimon then, he decides, okay, well, fine. I'll just trap the youngest one, and then I'll just destroy him and destroy his Digimon, and then they won't be able to defeat me. Kind of this goes into the whole concept of, Devimon is a very dark type Digimon, this very evil-ish type thing. And then when Patamon digivolves into Angemon. Now in the games, when you actually do like the video games for this, like I have one of the Digimon video games, I don't remember which one it is, but in that game, the Digimon digivolves, you can kind of predict what it's going to turn into, but the different lines, like if you have a Patamon, it can actually turn into a Devimon. Depending on how you raise it, or depending on what you want to do with it, it can turn into a Devimon. Same thing with the fact that, like, Gatomon turns into Angemon, but Gatomon can also turn into Lady Devimon, or different things like that. And, there's different types of Digivolution where, this branch can turn into this, but then, like, it can also turn back into this, based on how you raise it. And of course, in the Digimon series, not so much in the ones that I've seen, but I know that in other Digimon series that they've done, that the Digimon, that there are bad Digimon trainers, bad Digidestined, and those Digidestined have like darker type Digimon. They have the more evil-ish, or the ones that are more associated with evil Digimon. And and they have them. Doesn't mean necessarily that, it doesn't mean that I couldn't end up with a Devimon as my Digimon. It just means that if I had a Patamon, and if either I raised it poorly, or if I turned into a bad person, then my Digimon would change with me. It's the concept of the kind of the corrupted Digivolving, when Tai kind of forced Greymon to Digivolve, he Digivolved wrong. He Digivolves into Skull Greymon, as opposed to Metal Greymon, the way that he's supposed to Digivolve. The other example for this is obviously Kari. Out of those two Kamiya siblings, we have Kari, who is the one who, in Digimon Adventure Tri, she had Nyaramon, and Nyaramon obviously had devolved all the way up to Angemon at this point already in the series. But when Kari saw Tai die, or thought that he died, she snapped, and that resulted in Nyaramon turning into a Funimon Fallen Down mode. So there is a difference there. And in all honesty, if Devimon had just gone and captured TK and basically isolated him from the rest of his friends, and isolated him and Palmon, Devimon probably could have figured out a way of making TK turn bad, and then TK wouldn't have wanted to destroy him. Kind of do the whole Stockholm Syndrome TK, which sounds horrible. But, Patamon digivolves into Angemon, Angemon is like a Digimon of light, and that has a huge amount of actually being able to affect Devimon. and this results in Anjuman using its power, using his power. I think it's a hand of fate that he uses after he kind of absorbs power from the other Digidestin, because we have the moment where like all the Digidestin's Digivice's lights all point to Anjuman, and he gathers up all of their power, and then he uses that as a way to destroy Devimon. Unfortunately, in this same process, Anjuman also dies. Which is then when it turns into the Digi-Egg, and then turns into, you know, later on hatches, and then Digivolves all the way back up to Patamon, and then all the way back up to Anjuman, with TK by his side. Which of course I went over in TK's video. But what we see what happens is, we don't really see Devimon again. We do learn that Devimon, Edamon, and Myotismon were all three kind of Digimon that were born out of chaos that were made by Apocalypse. Apocalypse will have his own video. Caveat. And what ends up happening is we don't really see anything else of Devimon until we get to season 2. And what ends up happening is season 2 is when Ken, as a Digimon Emperor, is trying to create Chimeramon, is trying to create his, you know, hodgepodge-ish type Digimon. What he does is he goes and he tries to find like this source of all evil in the digital world, and he finds this, you know, this whirlpool of darkness, and he is ready to, you know, absorb the power from it, you know, suck in all of that dark power to be able to give life to Chimeramon. And, you know, out of the giant swirling vortex of evil appears Devimon. And of course, TK and Cody see what happens with this, see this happen, and this kind of makes TK snap. And I went over this in TK's video as well. TK sees Devimon, and, you know, Devimon basically, now I don't know if it's actually supposed to be exactly Devimon, or if it's just because Devimon is the first like truly evil Digimon that the Digidestin encounter when they first arrive in the digital world, that he is just this one that was chosen. It's just the representation of using Devimon for this. Also, it very much shows how much Devimon still can affect TK. And what ends up happening is, you know, Ken just like, you know, kind of, you know, pulls a Seto Kaiba from, what is it, Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, screw the rules, I have money. In this case, it's screw the rules, I want a giant evil Digimon hybrid chimera thing. And he sucks in all of the darkness from Devimon, and Devimon even kind of like warns him against it. You know, it's like, you cannot control the darkness type thing. And then Ken just like, screw you, and then he just like sucks in, you know, all the darkness, and then he pumps that power into Chimeramon, and then that creates / wakes up Chimeramon. Don't ask me the process for making a Digimon, I don't know. For making a Digimon from scratch, I don't know. But Ken did, apparently. And Ken, you know, then he has Chimeramon. Chimeramon ends up going kind of crazy near the end of when Ken is the Digimon Emperor, and, you know, that still gets destroyed. But this is of course when we have TK and you know, Ken fight. There's not really anything else that we see for Devimon throughout the rest of the season. There is an Ice Devimon that pops up in Tamers, but that's a different thing. That'll, you know, Tamers will get their own videos. You know, what ends up happening is we see, you know, Devimon is kind of this just representation, because it's the first. Devimon is kind of this representation of the first evil Digimon that the Digidestin have to deal with when they first arrive in the digital world. Therefore, he is this horrible representation, this horrible reminder, mostly for TK, that he could not always protect Patamon, and he does not want to lose Patamon again. He does not want to, you know, see his best friend die again, and he doesn't want the rest of his friends to see that either. We do unfortunately kind of get that moment when it comes to them all having to say goodbye to their Digimon in Digimon Tri, when you know, when they're all infected and when the reboot has to happen. But that's a different matter. But that's what we have for Devimon. The next one will actually be Edamon slash Datamon, because they kind of intertwine with each other, because Datamon worked for Edamon, which I will go over. So that will be the next video that comes out for this series. So I thank you very much for watching. If you have any thoughts on Devimon, or Bakumon or Kawagamon, please comment on them. I hope you have a nice rest of your day, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye! You have used up all your power. That wasn't very smart, Anjumon. Now you're no use to anyone. You can't get away from the dark forces. Evil is everywhere, so don't savor your victory. There are other Digimon who are just as powerful as I am. Some of them are just stronger. I wonder what you'll do when you run into them. You haven't won at all. What a waste of time. Ha 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 ha!